Thank you, Anthony. And like I said, Joe should be joining us shortly. We'll see what he thinks about the possibility of the Cavs being able to make any kind of significant trade.
Speaking of Jason wearing hats yesterday,
Yeah.
Jason and Joe work together.
Right, sure.
Joe was wearing a fedora, I believe. Is the fedora the one that has a little like French cap thing?
I don't know what a French cap thing is.
Fedora?
Yeah,
he was wearing a fedora last night at the game.
Joe was wearing a fedora? Is this true?
Let me make sure I know what a fedora. I'm saying the right thing for a fedora.
What?
Show me the hat.
I'm looking it up. It's a fedora.
This is great.
Oh, Joe, wait, let's bring in Joe in because we got to find. This is a fedora.
He was wearing one of these.
Well, we'll ask him.
Oh yeah. Those are like those.
We got
the
Joe?
Kangol caps.
Joe Vardon, the Athletic. Joe, is it true you were wearing a fedora last night at the game? Is that true?
False. And Mikey is showing his abundant lack of culture, taste, and fashion. It's a newsboy hat.
That's what it was.
I don't know what that is. What's a newsboy hat?
You know what a newsboy hat is? It's it's like a cap. I thought about.
Is that the
wearing
thing
it
that Dave
today.
Spano used to wear all the time, Dustin?
Yeah, it's kind of like
I'm looking at a
it's like
picture
kind of
for
like a beret.
Oh, you're wearing a
No,
beret?
not a beret.
Similar though.
This.
Oh, yeah. Okay, all right. Then that's not a fedora, Mike. What's wrong with you?
I don't know culture or fashion. Hand up, guilty as charged. Sorry, Joe.
I mean, I don't know fashion either, but I know that's not a fedora. Anyway.
And listen,
Yeah.
I'm sorry for not being in studio with you guys today, but I'm not coming into studio unless Jason Lloyd picks me up in that chariot of his and drives me downtown. So
I mean, that's fair. He did spend I don't know, $200,000 on his car, so
Stop it.
he should drive you in.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Joe, last night, I don't know why. I usually don't make a big deal at all about regular season, but Evan Mobley played so timid yesterday that I don't know. It was a really disheartening loss for me for the Cavs yesterday. Am I going too far? Is that prisoner of the moment?
No. I've been thinking about how to perceive these Cavs Celtics games, and I did think that the first two were really important because they were telling of where this team was as compared to when last season ended. I thought both the Cavs and the Celtics were fully engaged in November. And they were both awesome. And so in those two games, we saw how the Cavs stood up. And if you look at the final score last night, it was another close game. And so you feel overall like they can compete. So that part is good. I don't think it's an overreaction because, the concern with the Cavs, who have been awesome all year long, is just that when things turn physical, can their guys handle it? And Porzingis out there, he was not in the series last year when Evan played fairly well, actually very well towards the end. Porzingis gave him a really hard time last night, and so we know Evan is battling an injury with the calf, and we know that he is definitely bigger and stronger than he was last year. Isaiah Hartenstein said as much. But yeah, look at who the losses are against. Oklahoma City, Boston, Houston twice, Atlanta twice. That's most of their defeats, and the same thing is happening every time they lose a game, which is the other team pushes them around in the spots that historically they have. This group has been pushed around.
Joe, we were talking about it earlier. These losses to these good teams that they're going to face in the postseason, I think it actually helps them be pushed to make moves here as they approach the deadline. One name that has been talked about is DeAndre Hunter with the Hawks, maybe for Karis LeVert in some sort of package. Is that real? Is that something that would be realistic? Make sense at all?
Well, look, they have a 6'9" wing who can move his feet and shoot. That's Dean Wade, but Dean is hurt again, and it's unfortunate, of course, for him and for the organization. But if you take a step back and look at him long term, as this team has been good, whether it's play-in years or the first year against the Knicks or last year's playoff run, Dean is unfortunately either hurt or not ready to go at this time of year. And so when you consider what we were just talking about the lack of physicality, especially on the perimeter, if Dean is not somebody you can count on to fill that void, then you need to consider addressing it because they are good enough to win an NBA championship for sure. So I think the preferred target there is Cam Johnson. He's more dynamic. He's a better shooter, a better scorer. But DeAndre may be more accessible. The price tag isn't as high. And when you talk about LeVert, who has a long history with Kenny Atkinson, and I believe Karras is having one of the better years of his career individually, but when you think about what the Cavs need in the playoffs, Donovan and Darius are going to play extended minutes. Certainly Jarrett and Evan will play extended minutes. So, the emergence of Ty Jerome as the third ball handler and as a scorer who can shoot, with all due respect to Karras, but if you're talking about roster building, then Karras, I guess, is more expendable now than he has been at any point in his Cleveland tenure. So, if the Hawks have interest in Karras, then that is a deal that makes some sense as we move towards tomorrow's deadline.
Joe, you mentioned Dean Wade, and when you dive into some of the numbers, the win-loss differentiation when he plays versus when he doesn't is absurd. This season they're 30-5 with Dean Wade. They are 10-5 without him. Going back to the 2022 season, they have a 72.2 win percentage with Dean Wade and just a 53.2% win percentage without Dean Wade. He's like their 7th, 8th best player, 9th, you could whatever, pick the number. Can a team be that dependent on a guy that low down the talent chart in terms of win-loss? To me, it sounds absurd that a role player is that critical for the Cavs in terms of winning and losing games.
It is absurd, and you can say it's an anomaly the way that the Grizzlies used to win all those games when Ja was out and they had Tyus Jones. And you would say, well, wait a minute. Tyus Jones is nowhere near the player that Ja is. How are they winning these games? And, the answer is more about the fit for Tyus and sort of what he brought to the team, things that you can't measure in a box score. And I think the Dean factor is, they have two small guards. And then they have Evan and Jarrett, who, up until this year, were both kind of a very similar player. This year is when Evan started to shoot the ball. So Dean is that wing, that 3-and-D wing. He gives you floor spacing. He can body up with a bigger player in the post. He can move his feet enough to handle some of the bigger wings that are in the league. So is he your best player? Not even close. Like you said, you had him as your 7th or 8th best guy. Okay. But the way he fits with a Donovan and Darius, who both of them are about the same height, and then also, with those two bigs playing together, somebody like that, they need to take that next step. And so, again, when you start talking about DeAndre Hunter or the Cam Johnson interest, that's why, because they need that player. And unfortunately, Dean just has not been able to stay healthy at the most critical times.
Joe, I want your thoughts on Luka Doncic and the trade. Obviously, everybody in the NBA seems to have been stunned. Were you yet another person that thought Sham's Twitter had been hacked when you saw the trade?
Bro, I was sleeping. I mean, come on! This was. I mean, what time was it? Was it? It might even have been after midnight.
It was.
Yeah.
12:15.
You certainly. Yeah. I mean, you wake up Sunday morning, and there's 115 text messages and all the alerts on your phone. I will say that I was not I didn't think it was fake.
Okay.
Because, as with most things, just because of my background and history and all of ours collectively here in Cleveland, my thoughts pretty quickly went to LeBron. And, I'm aware that this man is considering retirement. I don't think this is his last year, but the end is in sight. It is. I mean, he's 40 years old, and he's been doing this for 22 years, and they're just comes a time where enough's enough. And when you get a guy like Luka, who's two things, he is a megastar who happens to play the same position as LeBron. So this immediately made some sense to me. But the parts that were harder for me to understand or to really think through is what it meant for LeBron and how he would react, what the Lakers felt about what to do with him. I knew about the no trade clause. And what you've seen, either through my reporting and colleagues reporting that LeBron had intended to stay with the Lakers, and then you see Luka's passion for playing with LeBron and LeBron being open to this. This works out, and it's probably going to smooth the transition away from him, and it may invigorate him, if not only for this season, but maybe this year and next year. So that's why the trade, while stunning, it wasn't to the point where I thought it was fake, because there were some things going on there.
But why would Dallas do this? I just don't understand. Why, at the very least, why not shop him around?
Is there something more going on that we're not seeing here behind the scenes?
Yeah, I think so. I think there is. And I've been saying this all week, I'm not going to go on air and provide conjecture for something as serious as this. To be honest, I don't know. I don't know if there was one defining moment or one thing, that sort of just snapped on the part of the Mavericks. But what is clear is that for a while, the Mavericks have grown concerned about Luka's long-term future there. Luka insisted yesterday, and his agent has privately, that they never made any kind of comment that would suggest that Luka would refuse a Supermax extension from them. But at the same time, there was paralyzing fear, and I know this to be true, that, by the way, you guys are doing me dirty right now. Good.
I know.
grief.
That's a terrible picture.
That is a really bad picture, although I do like my hair.
Yeah.
But no, there was certainly this fear, that paralyzing fear in the organization that they might lose him. And then I think that there became a discussion about, do we want to commit these dollars to him? And the way they described it Sunday in Cleveland was that Anthony Davis and Max Christie advanced their culture. And what's implied is that it's in a way that Luka could not. So, we are left with no choice but to assume that there was some sort of turn on the part of the Mavericks where they made the decision to move on from him now. Because clearly, for as good of a player as Anthony Davis is, and as much as they say he fits what they want to do defensively, they could have shopped Luka to Milwaukee and maybe gotten Giannis. I mean, it goes that high up, and they didn't do it, and there's a reason why.
Joe, I want you to put your GM hat on here. The deadline's tomorrow at 3 o'clock. The Cavs currently have the best record in the Eastern Conference. But as currently constructed, are they good enough to win an NBA championship, or do you think Kobe Altman and company have to go out and make some sort of improvement to the roster to solidify themselves as legitimate title contenders?
If I had a GM hat, Kobe would take it off my head, light it on fire, and throw it in the wastebasket. I'm pretty sure that's true. Listen, the two best teams all year are the Cavs and the Thunder, and it's really not close. And I don't think either of them are going to take a big swing here at the deadline. And so what we are left to decide is the last however many years since the Warriors dynasty, we haven't had a repeat champion. Is that because the regular season matters and the very best team during the regular season typically goes on to win? Or are we to assume that, when we've seen teams like the Lakers get to the Western Conference Finals after being garbage, or the Celtics stinking for a half a year and making it to the finals, or the Heat, doing the same thing? Are we to assume that this regular season has become so unimportant that the teams that sort of bide their time and coast and then make these adjustments can get into a place where they become the actual contenders. I am going to side on the fact that either the Cavs or the Thunder are going to win the title. That's what I'm going to say, because we've seen over the last 5 years that the best teams get there and they win, but only one. So we're going to see a surprise in one of the conferences. My phone right now, the reason why I was late getting in is there is all kinds of trades discussion going on right now involving the Miami Heat and the Phoenix Suns, and the Warriors are involved, and it's nuts. So, one of these conferences is going to have a surprise. But to your question, Mikey, do the Cavs have enough? They do. Will it translate into getting there in June? I mean, I just don't know.
Joe, just to follow up, I know you said you don't think there's going to be a big move, which makes sense. Do you see them doing anything, like even a small addition? And could we see Kevin Love in some sort of buyout market come back to the Cavs?
Well, I have been hearing that the Cavs have become an attractive place for buyout players.
Yeah.
But they don't have room for that right now. So to answer your question, Adam, I think we're going to see something small. I think they need to move someone to create space so that these buyout players, whether it's a Ben Simmons, whether it's Kevin, which fans would lose their minds over that one. For those guys to come back, you're going to have to make a smaller move to clear space on the roster for that.
Joe, great stuff as always, buddy. Good to talk to you. Thanks for joining
brother.
us.
Thanks, Joe.
Great to see you guys anytime.
Thanks, Joe. Joe's the best covering the NBA. Doesn't think the Cavs will make a huge move. Thinks they're going to make a small move. Doesn't think the Thunder are going to make a big move either.
And just one thing on the buyout market.
Yeah.
The Cavs have 15 guys on the roster. You can't have 16. So if they're going to bring in a buyout guy, it means they have to get rid of somebody. So that's why Jason's idea of trading Thompson and Merrill or Thompson and Craig Porter Jr. to a team like Utah, just so they could take out the salary, then sign guys, is the realistic way to bring in a buyout guy. If they don't make any kind of trades, they're not in the buyout market. Just a heads up.
You can't just cut one of those guys?
You can, but then you're still over the luxury tax.
Right. But in theory, you could cut Tristan.
In theory, you can cut
him.
Tristan and sign somebody, but then you're still in the same financial. It doesn't actually help them financially.
Right, but if the goal for us, we don't care about.
We don't care about the money.
True,
The question is, would they do it?
I'm just saying that's the. I think that'd be unlikely.
There'd probably be some team that would take them just to take them. That they would probably more likely to do it that way.
Yeah.
And if they don't make a trade before the deadline, even if it's small, it means they're probably not going to be involved in the buyout market.
The big thing he said there, guys, at the end.
Cavs coming to chip.
Cavs Thunder.
Yeah.
One of those two teams, he said.
Wow, I know.
I mean, that was, the whole interview was great.
Yeah.
That left me stunned.
Yeah. I mean, he said, and the Cavs have been better than the Celtics for most of this year. I'm not as confident as he is against the Celtics, but we'll see.
Health plays such a big role.
Yeah.
And it's
sure.
If they're both 100% healthy, we'd probably all pick the Celtics. But there's no guarantee.
That's true. And Porzingis is very injury prone.
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
He's more injury prone than any of the Cavs' big four guys.
Absolutely.
So
Not more injury prone than Dean Wade.
No, but yeah.
It is crazy. Real quick, Cam Johnson has not played that many more games than Dean Wade over the last 4 years.
Really?
Yeah. Now, part of that is the Nets suck and there's a ton of load management in there. But when you look at the numbers of games played over the last 4 years, Cam Johnson's above Dean Wade, but it's not where you that guy is certainly a lot more reliable than a Dean Wade is.
We're going to switch back to the Browns in a minute, but just to follow up also on something he said about Kevin Love. Somebody else, who else brought that up with us recently?
Well, I mentioned it to Dan Titus, who was on from Yahoo.
That's right. I mean, listen, it was a little up and down after LeBron left with Kevin Love. Obviously, there were some good moments, and people, overall, the re-signing of him didn't really go well. But it would be cool if he came back to be part of this team.
And I think he'd be a great fit, too. I really do.
Yeah. Well, he helps you on the glass, and obviously he can shoot.
And a playoff experience.
Right.
Veteran leadership. And
although he's not known for his defense, he played some historic defense for a minute in big game, and he knows the pressure of those big games, I don't know. That
you
would
a Kevin Love fan, Dustin?
Yeah. I mean, I am, especially now. He wouldn't be here to be the Kevin Love we got in 16. You know what I mean? Or whatever it was, 14.
14.
Yeah.
He would be a guy that would essentially give you whatever minutes 5, 8, 10 minutes a game and be a veteran that has been there and is a champion.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
the
Tristan
championship
Thompson
attitude.
on the court is useless.
Yeah, Kevin
He's
Love is more
Right.
valuable
If
than
you replace
Tristan Thompson.
Tristan's spot with Kevin Love,
It's enough
well,
for
you still got that playoff experience.
And, dude, Kevin Love can still hit a 3.
Yeah, he can still play. Tristan can't play anymore.